Well, as we're going live, I just realized the volume hadn't been turned up. Today is day 18 of 44 days of talking about transforming grief. I have been posting every day a radio show from 2010 when I hosted 44 radio shows with 27 guests over the holiday period. The intention was to talk about grief, to share different experiences, and to be a guidepost, a shining light on how to use grief and the feelings that you have and the heart-centeredness to explore different parts of yourself, to heal, to learn, to find the gifts in all of it. And so today the topic is memories of a friend. And this radio show was with guest Shelly Rachanow, who is now Shelly Rachanow Williams, because in the 6 years since we did the show, she and her, the man in her life got married. So a couple of things I want to say. First, I want to share that Shelly is an author and a speaker and has been writing blog posts and sharing information for, I'm trying to think when her book first came out. It might have been 2008, 2009. But her first book, and I recognize the titles are backwards because of the way the camera shoots this, films this. But here's the first one. If Women Ran the World, Shit Would Get Done. And Shelly talks about how she originally wrote this book because she realized that there were these women in her life who were amazing and their stories weren't being told. And so she began to research all the wonderful, amazing, stupendous, inspiring, butt-kicking things women have been doing, and she wanted to celebrate them. So this book is a celebration. There are historical events that she lists in here, and then she interjects that with stories from women, what I call everyday extraordinary women. And then her second book, What Would You Do If You Ran the World?, were everyday ideas from women who want to make the world a better place. I hope that these books will get another wave of recognition and popularity now, because when I think about what's happening in the world, there are amazing, stimulating ideas in here. There is innovation. There are women who saw challenges and came up with solutions. So I want to shine a light on that with Shelly. She also, for a while, had a blog about different stories of women and just asking them what inspired them with some of the things that they offer, and then what they wanted to do in the world to make it a better place. Now, another thing I want to say about Shelly is that this radio interview really brought up the experiences of friendship between women. And I know there are different variations on friendship, but it brought up a couple of things for me. One, it was a journey with a friend. And Shelly had a very dear friend who died of cancer. And it was about 6 months, maybe 8 months before we did the show that her friend had died, her friend Elizabeth. They met when they lived in Atlanta, and then Shelly, a few years later, moved to California, and so they still had a friendship, but there were 3,000 miles in between them. And I was thinking about friends that I've had over the years where we had periods where there might have been a moment of something that brought us together. And that moment helped to continue a relationship that grew and flowered and blossomed. And I was thinking about some of the friends who I had for 20 years, living in homeschooling communities, and then we did peace projects together, we did evolutionary women retreats together. Some of the women went on to do Heal My Voice projects with me. And I was feeling like, what is it with friends where we're still connected, but our paths have taken us to different parts of our lives? And to not hold each other back, but to encourage each other to continue to grow. Well, that's the kind of relationship that Shelly and Elizabeth had. It was a relationship that was nurtured and nourished and cultivated during a period of time. And then they went in different directions to live their lives, still coming back to see each other, but not having that day-to-day connection that they once had. And then Shelly hears that Elizabeth has cancer. And there was about a year where she wondered, hi, Shelly, I see that you're here. It's so good. It's just so wonderful to be sharing your story again. But I really encourage everyone to listen to the radio show, because it does show a journey with a friend. And one of the things we talked about was what happens when you and a friend have gone in different directions. You live 3,000 miles away and you hear that your friend has cancer. Do you reorganize your life to be there? How can you support your friend from long distance? And I really felt like it was just such a great example of Shelly happened to have a job where she worked online. She worked at home. And she was able to transport herself back to Atlanta and be there with her friend for a period of time. And then Shelly's husband, Jonathan, who at the time was her boyfriend, but he flew, and he is a chef. And he flew to Atlanta and was a personal chef for Elizabeth. I can feel myself, just feeling emotional, getting a little choked up with this thought that I want to share with you. And because I can just feel it so deeply. We live at a time where it's really easy to get into a box around what's happening in your life and to forget to connect with people, whether it's in your home, it's in your neighborhood, it's the person who you see at the grocery store or where you get your cup of coffee. And the opportunity that we have to really be intimate with each other. And intimacy can be a moment of sharing a glance with someone, but it can also be a way of being a part of someone's life. Are you only there for the good times? Can you be there for the challenging times? And this isn't about beating you up if you're not there, because Shelly had this amazing opportunity where she could take her work with her. And there was a window of time in between writing her first book and her second book, which I was showing you the titles of earlier. And that she had a moment of spending time with her friend and offering something that her friend needed. Now, Shelly is great at organizing, and Elizabeth did not have that strength. So Shelly didn't try to impose something on Elizabeth that she didn't want it. They talked and found that what Elizabeth needed was someone to help her with some organization in the house and releasing things. And so Shelly was able to help and support her friend there. And I feel like that's another thing to remind ourselves. Are you offering support that you want to give and the other person doesn't really need that? And so to have a communication around, how can I support you during this time? And if they don't know at the time, give it some space, cycle around, bring that into the conversation later. But I wonder, and just take a moment, because I know I am reflecting on this by re-listening to the show. Are you missing an opportunity to have an intimate conversation with someone, to be a part of their life? And it's tricky because it's not about, it's this whole thing about codependency where you feel like, oh, I can't, it's like you're trying to get love or you're trying to make something happen. That's not what I'm talking about. And I'm going to give you an example of something that happened for me. I was in Los Angeles and I heard that a friend of mine who had just moved to Seattle was having vertigo. She was experiencing vertigo. And I knew that between the time I was going to Los Angeles and flying back to Baltimore, that I had a month where I could take my computer and work anywhere in the world. So I called my friend and I just said, I heard you've had vertigo. I have time. I could come up and help you. Do you need someone to drive you to the doctor? I still need to work, but I have time to be there. And so it worked out, and there's other details with that, but it worked out that I flew up here, and she actually was feeling better, but we were just able to spend time in the house. Well, if you can see the background of where I am right now, I'm in her home, and I'm back here now, and so we have been helping each other. And I knew that this was a place where I could write and I could also help Karen as she's unpacking her house, getting organized here, and preparing for her life. So just think about that, not about limiting yourself, but actually about expanding yourself in connection and conversation. All right, thank you for being here. I'm going to finish this Facebook Live now, and I'm going to post the link to the radio show. And I had some technical difficulty yesterday, so I'd hoped to do this show yesterday, and so it's here today, and then a little bit later today I will share day 19. Thank you.